Chapter 4 of The Autobiography of a Newspaper Girl by Elizabeth L. Banks. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 4 Into the Wide, Wide World of Journalism. Certainly no woman could ever have entered upon a journalistic career under pleasanter and more encouraging circumstances than did I, so far as my first editors and co-workers were concerned. Just as I shall never forget the Western heartiness and kindness shown by the men on the staff of the Daily Hustler, so shall I always remember the Southern thoughtfulness and chivalry that took me in charge when I became the only woman member of the staff of that Southern paper. The managing editor was an ex-Confederate colonel, who had very exact and old-fashioned notions on the subject of woman's sphere, and he was of a very decided opinion that a newspaper office could not possibly be included in the said sphere. Nevertheless, his opinion on that subject had been overruled by the decision that a woman was needed on the paper, and he set to work to make my surroundings so altogether pleasant and agreeable that if I really was out of my proper sphere, it never occurred to me to suspect it. The colonel's office was separated from the main room in which worked all the other editors and reporters by a half partition. In this big room, when I arrived on the scene, an attempt was made to give me a little privacy by boarding off a corner with what might be called a quarter partition, since it only extended 3 or 4 feet in height. In that corner, with a brand new desk of wonderful manufacture, a revolving chair, and some nails in the wall in lieu of a hanging cupboard, I was installed as a sort of reigning queen. Frequently on a morning I would find some new convenience or luxury added to the furnishings of my little den, and on inquiring the name of the donor, would be informed by the reporters and editors, "Oh, all we fellows clubbed together and got it." It was thus that I was supplied with a gilt-framed looking-glass, a tumbler, a footstool, a box of lead pencils, all carefully sharpened, new-fashioned kinds of blotters, a variegated flower vase, which was always kept filled with flowers, apples, big as pumpkins, boxes of candy, and an apparatus for making lemonade in the hot summer time. One morning I arrived to find that my corner had been further walled in by the addition of a skillfully twisted wire, whereon hung, all unhemmed, a rainbow-hued print curtain. This being placed over the partition made a wall fully 6 feet high. "We fellows did it," I was informed when I investigated the matter, and it turned out that the real cause of my barricade was that, as the hot Southern summer came on, the question of the propriety of working in shirt sleeves with a lady in the office had been mooted, and the high print curtain, which would prevent my noting this breach of etiquette, was the result. Several other newspapers in the town had also solitary women reporters on their staffs, and great was the rivalry between myself and those other women. I had been engaged to do what was known as society and woman's work on the paper, and my constant ambition was to obtain for the page of which I had entire charge, scoops of various kinds, news of events which the women on the other papers would be unable to get. It was for the Sunday edition that I made especially strong attempts in the scoop line, and Saturday afternoon and evening was a very busy time for me. One Saturday I got wind of a great social event that was to be expected in the near future. I had only a hint, and no positive information whatever. All day long, and all the evening up to 11 o'clock, I chased that hint, but the people who were in the know refused to give me the information, one of them going so far as to say, "I don't like your paper nor your paper's politics, and you must expect no information from me. I have told all I know about the affair to the young lady who represents the Daily Blank." It was the last straw. Instead of scooping the other newspaper girls in that town, as was my wont, I was going to get scooped by one of them on the morrow. In a tragic state of excitement I went back to the office, and the city editor, who knew of the mission on which I had gone, called out, "Hello, have you got it? You'd better hurry up writing it, or your page will be late going to press." "No, I haven't got it," I cried. "But that isn't the worst. Miss Jackson across the way has got it, and she's going to print it in tomorrow's paper, and I shall be scooped." The terrible word escaped me with a groan, and every man in the office turned from his work to look at me and take in the meaning of what I said. "Scooped, scooped," I murmured falteringly as I passed on to my desk to get my page in form for the composing room, and after me there followed like an echo the sympathetic voices of the men. "Scooped, scooped. Our girl is going to be scooped by the other paper's girl." It was after midnight when I went home, and as I jumped into the cab which a thoughtful management provided for me when I was kept late, a little group of the men reporters came rushing down the stairs, and one of them called out after me, "Say, don't you worry about that scoop, because it'll be all right. Now be sure you don't worry." But I was not to be comforted, and I went sorrowing home and to bed, expecting that I should wake in the morning to find myself scooped. The next morning, in looking over the paper and glancing at my own page, I was struck with a certain strangeness about its appearance, though I had as usual seen a final proof of it before leaving the office. I discovered that a special article I had written to "fill up space" had been taken out, and another article was in its place, and I wondered who had presumed to meddle with my own special, particular page, the page of which I alone was the editor. I looked again at the article which I had not written, the one which was inserted in the place of the one I had written, and I discovered it to be an extended and glowing account of the great society event, the information of which I had striven so hard to obtain. I wept for joy. I was not scooped after all. But how in the world had that article got there? I did not do Sunday work, but I could not resist the temptation to go to the office that night to inquire about the wonderful thing that had happened. At the office door stood the very coterie of reporters who had cautioned me not to worry when I got into the cab the night before. They were apparently enjoying a tremendous joke, for they were laughing uproariously. "Who did it? Who got the information? Who put it on my page?" I exclaimed breathlessly. "We fellows did it," they replied in unison. "There were 5 of us had a hand in it, for it was terribly late, and we had to get it into press in short order, so maybe it sounded like patchwork, but it was all there just the same, and you didn't get scooped." "But how did you get the information? Did the man that refused to tell me tell you?" I asked. Oh no. We didn't have time to fool around much. We just went and took it." "Took it?" I repeated, bewildered. "Yes. Didn't you say they had it over at the other newspaper office? Well, we took it." "You mean you took Miss Jackson's manuscript? Stole it from her and printed what she wrote on my page, and she hasn't got it in her own paper at all?" "No, Miss Jackson's got it in her paper, and what's on your page isn't written like hers a bit, but the facts are all there." That was all the information I was ever able to obtain from the chivalrous young Southern gentleman who had come to my assistance and kept me from getting scooped. I was never let into the secret, but I have always been of the opinion that they had in some way made a raid on the composing room of the rival paper, got their information by word of mouth from one of the printers, who suspected nothing, and thus saved me from what I would have felt was disgrace. As I have said, I am not sure just how "we fellows" did it. But if, as I suspect, they used some method which might have been the least little bit underhanded, I hope the recording angel has neglected to note down in his book that part of the proceeding. There were no hard and fast rules laid down for me as regarded office hours. I was told that I might come and go as I liked, so long as my work was done in time. Such privileges in a newspaper office have a tendency to spoil a woman, and I was no exception to the rule. Once, when I had got my report of a certain women's meeting which I was to write up, I stopped in at a theater instead of returning directly to the office, with the result that my copy was very late in reaching the city editor's desk, and the first edition of the paper was late in coming out. Now, that city editor was a hustling Northern man, and straightway he went to the managing editor with the suggestion that I be admonished to work first and play afterwards. Over the partition came the sound of his indignant voice saying, "In some ways she ought to be treated the same as the men. Now don't you think so?" Whereat the doughty colonel replied, "See here, I wasn't the one who started this female journalism racket on this paper. I never approved of having a woman on the paper, but the rest of you wanted a woman, as you said, to do woman's work, and now you've got her, I guess you'll have to put up with any little fads and fancies and shortcomings she may have. I never knew of a newspaper office that wasn't upset with a solitary woman in it. Where they keep a couple of dozen, as they do in Chicago and New York, it's different, but one woman's bound to get spoiled in an office of men." The next day I said to the colonel, "I couldn't help overhearing what you and the city editor said yesterday. Hereafter you are to treat me just like a man, else I'll resign." "All right, so be it," was his laconic reply. A day or two afterwards, when a thunderstorm was raging and I had crawled under my desk for safety from the lightning, I was bidden to the managing editor's office. There sat that chivalrous Southern gentleman on the only chair in the room, his hat on the back of his head, a cigar in his mouth, his feet on the table. "I want you to go out at once and report that 3 o'clock meeting at the Methodist Church," he said, without so much as removing his cigar or lowering his feet. "But how can I?" I objected. "It's thundering and the rain is like a torrent. Why can't one of the men go?" "Because I tell you to go," was his answer. I stood speechless in my surprise, for I was his subordinate and he was my chief. "How do you like it, being treated like a man?" he suddenly asked, a grim smile illuminating his face. "I don't like it at all," I confessed. "I thought you wouldn't. Now you may go to your corner and get under your desk until the thunder stops. I suppose we shall have to put up with that along with your other fads and fancies. I'll send one of the men to do this women's temperance meeting, though, as you know," he added half banteringly, "it's a part of your regular work to attend to the women's meetings." So I was restored to my former happy state of mind, but the incident taught me a lesson. I had conscience enough to know that the city editor was right in his suggestion that work should come before play, and I was never again late with my copy. When material for my woman's page was scarce, I begged the city editor, who was one of the most enterprising of journalists, to put me on to other and broader kinds of work, so that I might be able to deal with subjects other than those of interest to women only. I was frequently asked to do "specials" for the news department, such as the writing up of political meetings, and then I was sometimes sent over to Washington for a day to take a look at the lawmakers of my country and examine into their ways. I began to do interviewing, and thus I got just a little peep into the wide, wide world of journalism. That peep was the beginning of ambitions, and also the beginning of sorrows. When I ceased to be merely the editor of the woman's page, and started to become what might be fitly described as a general in newspaper work, my experience was very like that of a girl who suddenly goes out from the shelter of home and into the world to fight her own battles. Up to then, the angels, into whose charge I had been committed away out in Wisconsin, had always seemed to be about and around me to help me over the stones. Now I elected to walk alone. One day a stranger entered the office, and seeing me in my corner, said, "Ah, I see you've got a lady editor in your office." "Well, yes," responded the city editor. "But besides being the lady editor, she's one of the best all-round reporters I've got on my staff." It would not have been half an hour after making that remark that the city editor came over to me with the air of having an important commission for me. "I've got a fine thing for you," said he, "if you can pull it off." Then he explained that a certain well-known actress, who had appeared in a play the night before at one of the theaters, had suddenly forgotten her part, put her hand to her head, and gone off the stage as though in a dream. The play was almost brought to a standstill, but her understudy had managed to take her place till the fall of the curtain. It was thought the actress was intoxicated. In former days she had been an American society beauty and had got stage struck, and when she had given up her home for the footlights, a very disagreeable scandal had followed her. "Now," continued the city editor, "I've sent 4 different men to see that woman today, trying to get her version of last night's affair on the stage, but she sends down word she's ill and confined to her room and unable to see anyone. But I believe she'd see you because you're a woman and can go right up to her room. Go and interview her. It'll be a great story, and we'll even scoop the New York papers. Find out if she was drunk last night. Find out everything you can from her. Make a big special of it. You can have all the space you want. If you manage it, well, I'll just say you won't be sorry you tried to please me." In 15 minutes I made my way to the hotel where the actress was stopping, sent up my card, and was admitted to her room. So beautiful had been the pictures I had seen of this woman, that the wan, thin face, actually ugly from dissipation, that looked up at me from among the pillows, gave me a most unpleasant start. "I'm glad a woman has come to me at last," she said, as she tossed her head from side to side. "I'm in disgrace, alone, forsaken even by my own parents. I've made a mess of my life. Listen, and I'll tell you how I did it, and about last night at the theater, too." Then, without my so much as having asked her a single question, the woman poured into my astonished ears a story of such pathos and such horror as made me start back and cry, "Hush, hush! Don't talk to me any more. You will be sorry tomorrow, but then it will be too late." "No, I shall not be sorry," she exclaimed. "I must talk, or I shall lose my reason. I must tell someone of my troubles. Your face does not look hard and cold. Though you are a stranger, something tells me you will be my friend." "I am a newspaper reporter," I said simply. "You knew it from my card, and I told you I had come from a newspaper as soon as I got to your room." The woman rose up on her elbows. Her hair lay scattered over the pillows, and with her bloodshot eyes gazing intently into my face and clutching my hands tightly in her own, she exclaimed, "Yes, yes, I knew you were a reporter, but you are also a woman, and I know you will not write a word of what I have told you. I have told you my story in confidence, and you will keep it." "No, no, not that, not in confidence," I cried, trying to snatch my hands from her grasp. "You have talked not to me, but to my paper. Oh, you knew it, you knew it. I must print it. I am helpless to keep it out. Why, I'm a woman with a living to earn. I have no one in all the world but myself to depend on. I must do what my editor tells me. He has sent me to get an interview with you, and you have given it to me. I owe a duty to him, to my paper. It would be cheating to hold it back." As I stood there by that bed, the woman's eyes burned into me, her nails dug into the palms of my hands as she tightened her grasp. She had told me of her own free will a story for my newspaper, a story for other newspapers, a plot for a novel, and now she said, "I have told you in confidence and you will keep it." I thought of my city editor waiting at the office for my return. I could see him smile the "Well done, good and faithful servant" smile upon me when I should walk in and stop at his desk to say, "Yes, I've got a great story from her. She talked and told me everything." This woman who clutched my wrists so hard and said to me, "You will keep it." Who was she that she should cheat me out of what was mine, should block the way to my future success, should hinder me in the beginning of my career? "Let me go! Let me go!" I exclaimed. "You talked to a reporter, knowing she was a reporter. Now take the consequences." I made another effort and got my hands free from her, while she sank exhausted on the bed. "I must go now," I continued. "I am sorry I cannot see things the way you seem to see them. I am a working woman with a hard struggle before me. When my editor tells me to do a thing, I have no choice but to obey. The world is very hard on women. I am sorry for you." I was turning the handle of the door. "Come back just 1 minute," said the actress. "I will not touch you. I won't take your hands again." I went back to the bed and stood looking at her. "You said just now that the world was hard on women. So it is, and women are also very hard on women. I've had more experience than you have had. I know the world. Let me tell you that very seldom has a woman gone to destruction but another woman has had a hand in sending her there. By printing what I have said to you this afternoon, you will ruin me." "You are ruined already," I said doggedly. "I cannot hurt you." "You will send me to hell, and others with me. You will make my name a byword in the gutters. By again making a public character of me, you will bring renewed shame to my parents. You will make my little sister, who has all her beautiful life before her, hang her head in the presence of all her companions. I say you will do this. I mean that you can do it. Are you going to do it? Tell me, are you going to do it?" "I will not do it," I said. My hands fell limply at my side. "I will not print a word you have told me. I promise." "You have promised! Oh, you have promised!" she exclaimed. "Will you promise me something else?" "Perhaps," I answered. I was crying and I was not a journalist. I was only a woman. "Promise me that in your work as long as you live, you will never try to get fame or money by writing things that will hurt women like me. Promise that you will never in any way, for the sake of your own success, tread on another woman and try to crush her." "I promise," I answered. Then I slipped out and closed the door. Once outside the stifling air of the room and away from the woman's presence, a strange, unaccountable feeling of terror took possession of me. I seemed by my promises to have bound myself in chains, and when I reached the street I gave myself a shake under the impression that perhaps the fresh air and the blue sky and the sunlight would make them drop from me, but the chains still seemed to bind me. What had I done? I had entered into a compact which at that moment it seemed to me would be a mortgage on my whole future life. I had promised always to refrain from writing anything that would hurt women like the one I had been talking to. I had promised never to crush any other woman in my climbing of the ladder to success or happiness. Again I shook myself, but the chains still clung, and thinking that I could hear them clatter as I walked along the street, I returned to the office. I passed by the city editor's desk. "Hello, it took a long time," he exclaimed. "Did she talk?" "Yes," I answered. "She talked a great deal, but I promised her I would not write a word she said." He jumped from his chair, a surprised light in his eyes. "You promised? What do you mean? Have you the story I sent you after, and do you say you will not write it?" "That's it, yes," I answered. "She forgot I was a reporter and told me everything, and then I promised I would not write it." His face grew red, then white. He was angry, but he made a tremendous effort to control himself. "If you were a man," he said quietly, "I would dismiss you from the staff instantly for rank disregard of the interests of your paper. As you are a woman, I will say that you have not the journalistic instinct. You will never be able to do big things in journalism. You can edit your own page, but you'll never be a really successful journalist. The fact is, you're all woman and no journalist." I remained on the Southern paper for some time after that, and attended conscientiously to my woman's page. The city editor grew friendly again, but he gave me no more "special features" to do, for "special features" could only be worked up by "real live journalists," as he frequently explained to me. One day I went into the managing editor's room and said to him, "I am going to London." The Colonel looked up from the editorial he was writing. "You will starve in London," he said. Then I came to London. End of chapter 4